So this will be more of a live coding session. So yeah, property-based test, I will come to what we're doing it exactly later, but the problem is usually people have very abstract examples, and it's not really easy to use it in real life. So I just thought, well, let's just get a random front-end application and use property-based testing, or in particular model-based testing, to make it awesome. So I just cloned this random TodoMVC that uses React hooks. No idea why. This was just one random TodoMVC implementation that I cloned, and I didn't look at any of this code. The only thing I basically did was run npm install and npm install fastcheck, which is the library we will use for property-based testing. I did nothing else. Well, I did a small thing. I did add a configuration so I can have a local installation of Cypress, because Cypress has a few dependencies, and this is the way how I can install this. So on Ubuntu or any other, you would install the dependencies. They are listed on the website of Cypress. So I tried to run it. I got an error with a link to the website. It told me which dependencies to install. My system is just a little bit different, so this is how I install dependencies. But this is nothing scary. So the only thing I really looked at, I didn't have a look at the code at all. I just opened, there was a Cypress test already included. Well, this line I already added. So you see here on the left my git gutter. So this was the test that was included. So is this just one basic unit test, like the unit tests we all know and I particularly don't love? Cypress, I never used Cypress before today, so this is actually pretty nice from an API perspective. So we just visit the site, check if our heading contains the to-dos, then we type something into the new to-do text field, and then see if the to-do list contains the demo. And if we run Cypress, so I have here a different monitor. So this is what the to-do looks by default. I can type something here and hit enter, and it will appear, just the TodoMVC we all know. The more interesting part is this is Cypress. So when you run Cypress, it will automatically see, well, there's a test, and you can run this test and it will execute all the steps, and you can even see the different executions. So first we go to the site, so it highlights the URL bar. Then we'd first check if this contains the correct heading. Then we navigate basically to the text field, type in their demo. So you see here it switches between before and after. Then we press enter. And we see also what happens before and after. And the last thing is we check if the list of to-dos contains demo. So I think the API is a really nice, really cool tool. So, but this is one unit test. It does not test basically anything. It tests if you can add a particular case that demo can be added. So what is property-based testing? So instead of having an example that should work, we basically let the property test framework, in this case fastcheck, generate random inputs for us. And we just need then to have a function that checks if the correct result was given. But this function has to work for any input. So if we remove this one test, let's just add a new thing here, describe property tests. So the first thing we want to do is basically have a hello world of property-based tests. It does not use Cypress at all. So we basically want to see if, yeah, a sorted list is the same as a sorted list. Or let's go even simpler. If plus is commutative, so if A plus B is B plus A, just to show how this works in general. So in particular with fastcheck. So first we need to use fc.assert, not a normal assertion library, because this can run properties. So then we want a property. Nope. I'm using JavaScript here. I really recommend TypeScript because then you get proper auto-completion. But the whole project was already in JS, and I didn't want to set up the TypeScript tooling that I didn't know. So this is how this works. Okay. Now we want to generate random numbers, or general random stuff. There is already a bunch of built-in. So let me just get a new window, maybe here, and get this tab here. So in the documentation of fastcheck, there is this page about arbitraries. which are the things that can generate random arbitraries. And it's also documented how we use it. So we have here our FC assert, FC property, then we can pass any number of arbitraries, and then a function that takes the random values and then check if this is valid. So the basic example, we have, for example, 3 strings, and then check if B is a substring of A, B plus C. Should always hold. And there's a bunch of already built-in arbitraries we can use, and we can even combine them. So we can create an array of another arbitrary, and so on and so on. So for our simple example, we want to basically take 2 natural numbers, so 1 natural number, and we want to generate a second natural number. And then we get a function with the 2 numbers. And now we can assert in here. And we would use the normal assertion library. So assert.strict equal A plus B is B plus A. This should always hold no matter which A and B. So if we run this, if we save this, Cypress will automatically detect and rerun our tests. And I mean, the second test is not really interesting because it just prints out a bunch of assertions. But yeah, you see here, there's a lot of random numbers in different sizes. If I would make an error in my tests or in my code, the property-based test will give me a minimal counterexample, which is the power of property-based testing. So you see here, the number it tried to test was really high, but then it shrunk it down until it got the minimal failing test case, which for natural numbers is 1 and 0, because 0 and 0 does work. You see here, 0 plus 0 would work. Same with 0 and 1. So it needs to be 1 and 0, because that does not work. So you get this minimal failing counterexample, which you can use then to debug your code. And yeah. So how to use this now with UI tests, how to marry the two together. So we will get rid of this thing for now. We don't need it. And I mean, we can leave. And by default, fast check generates or runs 100 random tests. So you get already quite a good test coverage just with the random numbers, because they are, yeah, you're running 100 tests, which is pretty nice. Good. So now UI tests. The thing with UI tests is they are stateful. So if you go back here, now we are not visiting the site anymore. This will come soon. Well, let's do this now first. So in here, we want to site.visit, and we want to go to the main application. So this is now. Okay, so now we need to see this is stateful, because if I type in demo and press enter, like now the state of the whole UI has changed. So this is not something I could test with just a simple property like here that just generates random numbers and then tests. Ideally, I want to test not only the system for one step, I want to execute many steps in any order that I could do. So this is where model-based testing comes in. Basically, how this works is we have a bunch of commands. And we say the commands are what can affect the world. And in the same time, we keep a model. And this model should be a simplified version of what we have in the real world. So for our case, our model will be an array. So our array will look similar to this. So we have an array. And for example, there's one value of demo, or let's go demo. And it is not checked already. Yeah. So this is a very simplified model of the whole UI state. So we can use this to check if our UI, our real UI, after clicking all the buttons and all the stuff, matches this expected model. And reasoning about the model is a lot simpler than reasoning about the whole UI. This is the whole point. We basically simplify our testing to just testing on the model instead of testing on the UI. So first, to do this, let's get rid of this simple test. We don't need it. First, again, we want a property. We want to assert a property. Nope, not uppercase. And because this will take a bit longer, we say it should only run 2 times. By default, fast check runs 100 tests, which is a bit excessive. So then there's a parentheses missing. Nice. Okay. So now we only have to fill the property. before we had fc.net, which generated a natural number, which won't work anymore. We want commands. So let's first define commands. We want to have a add to do command. In TypeScript, there's an interface that you can implement that has all the functions you will need from this class. But as I said, I'm using JavaScript for some reason. So this class has basically two methods. It can have a constructor. And in this case, we want to take the name of the to-do. And we will save that. And it has a check function. And this check function gets the model. And this check function should say if this command is able to run. So for example, the toggle, we will later need to test this toggle thingy. And this toggle thing can only work if there's at least one thing in the demo. So then we will need to specify this in a check function. But for adding new, we don't have any prerequisites. So we just can say that this always returns true. So we can always add new to-dos. So, and then the interesting part is the run function. It again gets the model. And then we need to make changes to our model and changes to the real world and then compare. So changes to our model is pretty simple. We push a new element to our array with value being the name of our to-do. And by default, new ones are not checked. So this is changing our model. Now we need to change the real world, and we will basically do this right here. So we just copy this line. So we get the new to-do thing, type, but now we don't want to type demo. We want to type the name. So this is affect the model, and here affect the real world. So, and now we just need to assert something. And for this, we will reuse the assert. Well, we will need to basically can take the code from here again. That will get the list, but we will do it a bit better than that. We will say, okay, for each of those, so Cypress has a each method that gets the element and an index. And then we can, for example, assert that. So this view thingy, if we look at the DOM here, this view is here, this div. And in the div, the first child is the checkbox, and the second child is the label. So there's probably a better way to do this, but as I said, I haven't used Cypress before today. So how I did the assertions was assert strict equal element 0 because it's an array, because it's for some reason could still be more than one. Then we want the child nodes. And as I said, the first child node is a checkbox. So we check this check property. And we would expect that to, so let's make a const model element, which should be the model at position I. And we would expect m element dot checked. They should be equal. So if the UI is checked, we would also expect the model to be checked. Same thing basically for the second thing. That now is the label. So we want inner text. And this should be the value. So as we say here, our model and value. And now this will not only check our newly added to-do, it will check all the to-dos that have come before too. So if we do is still not doing anything, so let's create a array of all possible commands. And we need this name for this command thingy. So let's generate random commands. Some of you might have seen this already earlier in the test, in the chat, in Slack. I tried to use, there's here this, if I go to the documentation for strings, there's this string arbitrary that generates all kinds of special characters. You see here what they couldn't generate. But apparently Cypress is not doing a good job of escaping the strings when trying to find it in the DOM. So this didn't work. So I will open a bug report later on, but for now, let's just use base 64 string with no special characters. So we want a base 64 string, and to type it in, we need to have it at least be 1 character long. And we don't want a string, but we want instead a add to do command of that string. So at the moment, we only have one possible command, which is generated from a base 64 string, because as I said, fc.string makes Cypress error out. So the property we will have now uses this thing. So we have there's a commands arbitrary that generates random commands based on our commands array. This was in the documentation. I'm not entirely sure what this does, but what we will do is say max commands equals 10, so we don't so we see the results easier for now. Later we can increase that value a bit. So and then we get all the commands as earlier and now need a function that does the actual assertion stuff. No, like this. So here we get, and for all we need to do is model run with the commands. No, first we need to create the initial model. The initial model is an empty array, but it's not only the initial, but we need to do the model, and we could also pass in something real in here. But because we use the DOM as our real thing, I just say undefined or null, doesn't matter. We will not use this later on. Okay, so this creates the initial model on the beginning of the round, and we pass all the commands we got. And I have somewhere an error in 48. So where is the error? Commands. My rainbow parentheses should protect me from this. Why is this a comma? This should be a semicolon. Now it's just correct. Yes. Okay. So we get an error, which is not what I expected, but probably they did a mistake. But we can run the test again to see what is happening. You see here now, it's already doing a bunch of stuff. I know why I threw an error. Yeah. So here we, let's make it a bit easier. The problem is what we have here. We run this twice. If I run this only once, there's no issue. But the TodoMVC takes the data from the local storage. So after every test run, we should clear the local storage. So there we can here on fc.property, we can add a hook. So after each, we can say, okay, Cypress, please clear local storage and reload the page to pick up on these changes. If we run this now again, it runs a bunch of commands, and afterwards it says reload. Let's make also here, let's add a sci.log finished runs ++. And if we run this, then in Cypress we will see after a while that it created some to-dos. It says here, yeah, it finished run 1, or let's start at 1 instead. Makes it a bit easier. Oh, there's the CSS not loading for some reason, but it doesn't matter. It works. Let's load this again. Why is the CSS not working? Now, okay. Yeah, so this is fine for now. We know that it can add to-dos. I can also show you with the failure that I mentioned earlier. So if we just replace this base 64 string with just string, it will give us a bunch of random strings. You see here, those are a bit more interesting. But if we are lucky or unlucky, depending on, yeah, there's an error, which is because apparently some interpolation stuff in Cypress. So let's continue with base 64 string for now. So we want to test more than just if adding to-dos works, because we can be pretty sure now that this is fine. Let's check if the checkboxes work too. And let's make not this after each, but say before each. So that the end result stays visible, which is nice. Yeah. Now the end result will stay visible after all the tests have finished, like this. And we can also play around with this. And what we want to do now is check if this checkbox thingy works. So we will add another command that can be generated. So we add the toggle command. It will take the index which one to toggle. And now the check function is a bit more interesting because now we need to see if we have at least one element in our list, else we can't toggle anything. So now if we run the thing, we get the model. So our model is now, we want, let's the index should be our n modulo the length of our array. So we can always get an index inside the array. And then at that point, we say checked equals not m. So we toggle this thing in our model. Now we need to also do the same thing in the real world, but Cypress has two functions for this. So we need to basically, we first get the element. So if we go back to the DOM, we can see that this is, it's a bit small here down there, but I don't know how to make this bigger. So like this. So it's a checkbox inside this view. So we can take this command from earlier and add another thing here, type checkbox, which should give us the correct element. And now this is we need to see if I should toggle it. So let's make a shorthand for this. So if our element is already checked, we want to uncheck it. Else we want to check it. So far, so easy. We leave this in here, but we use our alias e.checked. With this, we will update our model. So here, update model. And now we want to run basically the tests again, and to not copy paste this, we will factor this one out into a function check model. Same thing, no magic here. And then we can call here check model of our array, and down here the same thing, check model our. So we have not added the second command to our command array yet. So let's just first check if we haven't broken anything. So if I reload here, no, we have not broken anything. The model check still works. You see here a bunch of assertions, pretty nice. And it also checks if the checkboxes are correct. So let's now add this to-do command. For this to-do command, we need an integer, or basically a natural number. So for our commands, our second command should be, we need a natural number. And then we want to map that natural number to a toggle command. Let the auto formatter do its job. And I forgot a comma right here. So, and if we run this now, we get an error because, yeah, I had this issue before. I don't know why this happens, but for some reason, this m is not the same as this m. So let's call this old m and make a copy of this. This is a very crude way of doing a copy, but I'm not sure why. This is some Cypress specific stuff, but yeah. Okay, this didn't generate any interesting stuff. No, there it was. Let us generate a few more commands. Now we can go a bit higher here. Let it generate, let's say, 50 commands maximum. And you see here now it's check. Oh, we got an error. What is the error? Expected true to equal false for some reason. What did I do different than in my example code? Because this was working. I have the to-do command and the to-do command in my what I prepared. This is, oh yeah, we want, this will give us the first element. We don't want always the first element. We want the first element to be, we want the nth element. So we want here the element at index. Now we can also toggle other stuff. Isn't this magic? I find this really magic. And it generates now 50 commands at maximum and runs 2 completely separate test runs. We can increase those numbers in CI. Let CI run for an hour, doesn't matter. We get complete tests. In my preparation, I also created commands for basically everything else, for the clearing, for the filters, and the 2 we already seen. So I will just copy over the code. It basically adds 2 new tests only. So let's import that here, and then, oops, I will share this code later. Here, that's the old code. Let's get rid of that. So you see, the model has changed a little bit. It's now an object with the array being, oops, I did not want that. With the array being the first element and this filter, the current active filter being the second element in the object. This allows us to have the filters and our commands. You see here the new to-do command, still the same base64 string, toggle command. I have now a clear command. This clear command removes, there's this in the TodoMVC. Once you click something, there's this button here. So this is triggering that. And this is which filter to select. Yeah, I also changed the viewport so we see it a bit more clearly in the test. And other than that, the tests are not that interesting. The model check is a bit more involved because it has to take care of the filters, and it also checks if the current to-do count is always the correct one. So if we save this and let Cypress do its magic, we will get greeted by a lot of stuff, which is pretty cool. Clear now. So yeah, now it cleared it. You see the 6 items left, and all the tests are passing. We can have another test run at this. And at this point, I would say I'm pretty sure there are no bugs in this thing. Yeah, and I didn't have to write a single unit test. I wrote one test, which took care of everything. So yeah, this is my talk. I really, really like model checking. It's pretty cool. So please ask me questions.
The framework that you're using, FastCheck?
Yeah. Why I use FastCheck?
Well, does that also work with things like React Native?
It's completely irrelevant watch framework. So this is anything that can run. It is basically an assertion library in the end. So if you can assert something based on random numbers, you can use FastCheck for it. It is not tied, even if with the Cypress stuff. I did not need to do that. It is just how the project was laid out. So yeah, it's irrelevant which code you are testing. Yeah, that's Knut. That's the interesting part. Yeah, Knut was saying that for more complex business logic, I might end up duplicating the business logic in the model. And that's the case. Your model does not have and should not replicate your domain logic one-to-one. It should be a coarse approximation of the thing. So in this case, I did a very precise model of the of the TodoMVC, but I could also just have a number that says, okay, I have a number that says how many active to-dos there are, and use that as a test. That's not, it doesn't test as much as this model, but it still tests a lot, so that if you clear the model, the number goes down to the expected amount, and it goes down. If you add a to-do, it adds one another to that count. So you can make the model a bit more coarse and not cover as much, and then you don't duplicate your business logic.
So I have a question.
Yes.
I've seen some process robotic frameworks, and I see similarities in this testing framework Cypress. Do you think that could kind of be used as a handy process robotic process framework to, instead of being a just testing framework?
I mean, what you would test or what you assert is up to you, I guess. I have not used it for such stuff yet, but I don't see why not. I use property-based testing, as I said, for UI tests and other tests. It's a lot more common in Haskell. There are several frameworks there. In JavaScript or TypeScript, there's basically FastCheck, which is modern, maintained, and has TypeScript bindings that work. And there's JSVerify, which is not maintained anymore, and is pretty out of date today. So I would just recommend FastCheck. And I don't think JSVerify also does not have model checking.
I was thinking more about using it for doing tasks on a service that doesn't provide an API. Those limitations.
I mean, you sure do it. In that case, it doesn't matter which you test, which language you use to test. So, for example, TypeScript would work fine. And it's really nice that you can just say which are the commands, the interactions, the possible interactions with whatever you're testing. In this case, I tested the browser. Someone else in the code in the chat said that they use this to check REST APIs. Basically the same thing. Doesn't matter what you need to assert it. FastCheck can work with async code, so you can await this fc.property, and it will work for promises out of the box. So if you have Cypress code is synchronous, so that was not a problem. But for example, if you test an API, you want this to be asynchronous. But yeah, that works too. So yeah, anything that you can put under test is working with model checking in no matter which language. And TypeScript is probably the easiest to learn. About the debuggability, you will get, as you saw, you see the path in the first example. You saw the path that FastCheck returned. That was just swallowed by Cypress in the second example. So you get a minimal run of commands that will result in the error. So I think this is even nicer than unit tests, because you can exactly see, okay, I need at least this command, and this command to make it fail. For example, one of the fathers of this model checking quick check approach, John Hughes, they checked automotive parts, and there was a bug that if you first sent one kind of message and then the second kind of message and then went back to the first kind of message, then you would get a bug. And finding such errors by manually gets hairy pretty much, because you either don't test it at all or you have a bunch of other irrelevant stuff in between. So the shrinking of the tests is the powerful stuff. So it finds the minimum sequence of operations to trigger the bug.